We're on
All
the
right,
air. Oh my
we're on
God.
air. All right, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This month's Small Market Broadcast Journalism Hangout: Do's and Don'ts of Social Media in News. Now, we all know that social media is a strong driving force in this industry. I'm joined by a very special guest today, Sri Srinivasan. He is the social media guru. He's the chief officer, digital officer of the Net. That's after 20 years of teaching at Columbia Journalism School. Thanks, Sri, for joining us today.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me. And I love talking to folks at AAJ, so I'm glad to be here.
Perfect. Well, just to start off, I mean, obviously, social media is really important as journalists. What tools are the most valuable? What should we be using right now?
Well, it depends on who you are and what kind of interests you have and what kind of work you do. But I would say at the baseline that all journalists need to be on is Twitter and Facebook and understanding Instagram and using it when you're comfortable. The thing is, there are so many other tools, right? Like Snapchat, and here we are with Google Hangouts, and there are so many other things that people are constantly coming up with. Figuring out which ones make sense to you is going to determine how successful you're going to be. And I tell people you don't have to jump on every platform. Find the ones that make sense to you and work on those. Folks who are in smaller markets should also be thinking, as they do in big markets, about the audience. Where is the audience? Not just where you're comfortable, but where is your audience comfortable, and working with them on that. But I would say that the advice I give to folks today is going to be very similar to advice I'd give anybody. Be really smart and sensible on your social media work, and be very careful as you do your social media work.
Another thing we're seeing popping up right now is Snapchat.
Mhm.
Now, is that a realistic, source of news for people?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. I think that if you're covering a lot of stories where people are using Snapchat, and we're seeing places like the Wall Street Journal uses Snapchat. The Snapchat itself has hired people who are broadcasters and put them on Snapchat. So you're certainly seeing it as very, very popular. But again, you have to see what makes sense for you. If you're a reporter covering cops and crime, you may find that the cops you're dealing with, or the authorities you're dealing with, the mayor's office, et cetera, are on Twitter and not on Snapchat. But there are other sources you're dealing with that are on Snapchat. You have to find your own way. I find that almost all of us can use a social media tune-up and be smarter at using social. For example, all of us could look at our Twitter bios and make them more relevant and make it so that people will follow you. As there's just so much noise out there that you want to be as clear as you possibly can in your Twitter bio. I call them a Twitter bio makeover, and I recommend that very highly.
Yeah, talk about that. What kind of keywords or things you should put in your bio?
So, be really clear about who you are and what you do. So, reporter at channel ABC, WABC, at WABC, covering these three topics. Or if you're a GA reporter, then you just say general assignment reporter, but love, and then you could mention two or three things that you really love. Even if you're a general assignment reporter, there are things that you're really interested in. So, crime, or fashion crime, or schools or politics. Make it clear who you are. Your Twitter bio is a great starting point to help people understand who you are and why you are, and therefore why they should follow you. Those of you who are in television or on air, you know that news directors are very quick to pop out the resume tapes that people send them for on-air jobs. And I remember the old days of VHS tapes. Some of your audience will not even know what those are, but we have these things called VHS tapes, and I've seen news directors who would pop in a tape and start hitting eject almost immediately because it took a few seconds for the tape to eject. So you had like 10 seconds to make an impression. On Twitter, it's even less. So be really clear about who you are. Be clear about where you work company-wise, your interests, and then be really clear about where you live. Other journalists, as well as PR people, government officials, and others, are looking directly at your Twitter feed and seeing where you live. And I see people make clever things like Planet Earth, or in an airplane, or the closest Starbucks. I've seen things like that in journalists' Twitter bios. Make it as clear as possible so that people will want to follow you.
Now, is it important to have a lot of followers? Do people?
I'm sorry? No, they were cutting out a little bit.
Is it important to have a lot of followers? Do people look at that and see that, oh, you must be reliable if you have thousands of followers?
Well, followers are not an indicator of anything really, because you can easily buy thousands of followers. You could buy 100,000 followers for like $200. Please never do that, because you'll be outed. There are tools like Status People where you can go in and find out how many fake followers someone has, and I've seen a journalist get in real trouble over that. Instead, think about this idea. It's not who follows you that matters, it's who follows you that matters. Meaning, who are the people following the people who follow you? That's what influences. You're not looking for raw numbers, you're looking for influence. And you want it to be to the point where the mayor's press secretary follows you because she knows you're going to be breaking stories. That's worth a lot more than a random 100 people who are not even in your market following you. So thinking like that, I think, is important. Of course, it's good to have more followers, and there are ways in which you can get more followers, but it's not based on trickery. It's not based on begging people to follow you. It's based on doing smart, interesting work so that people will follow you. You have to be so interesting that people have no choice but want to follow you.
Well, many of us have a personal profile and a professional profile, professional Twitter, personal Twitter. Is it necessary to have two of them? Is there a line that we kind of cross?
Yeah, well, you have to be very careful. Sorry, I should have done this before. When you're preparing to go on Hangouts, you must always charge your laptop, and I'm sorry that I didn't charge it in advance. So there's a lesson, and I always say ABC, always be charging, but I'm always charging my phone, and I wasn't thinking as much about charging my laptop. And by the way, that's a tip for everybody. Make sure you're always charging your phone, and as you can see, I'm charging my phone right now, and I have a Mophie case, M-O-P-H-I-E. I make no money from this, but it's fantastic. It's a case and a battery pack, and when you're shooting video, look at this. I got this little thing called Pop Sockets. It's made in Colorado. And what it does is it gives you a little extra space. I don't know if you can see it. And then you can put your hand in there, and you get a really steady grip on your phone. So when you're shooting video, you can shoot it like that, and it's really steady. Or it becomes a stand, and you can just rest it like that on for TV watching. Or watching Netflix or whatever. Just give me 1 second. I'm about to disappear. This is my office at the Met. And
look of his office.
Yeah, there he goes. Well, it's much more interesting to look out my tiny window. I have a tiny window here, and if you can't quite see it, but that's you can see the skylights of our Greek and Roman gallery, which is, the galleries are just fantastic, and some of the most beautiful art on earth is over there. So, in fact, the photo that's being used to promote this event of me leaning against a pillar is actually shot down there. So I'm delighted that my little office is above the Greek and Roman gallery. So to your question back about double profiles, yeah. I would say the way to think about it is that you want to have one profile. No one has time to maintain two. And when I see someone with two profiles, I wonder, what are they up to? What are they hiding? Why do they need two profiles? There's almost no need to do that. There are some women who are, because of issues with stalkers and fans and all of that, that might have a specific reason why they're super careful about their profiles. But all of us should be careful about profiles, and I see no reason to have two. So what do I mean by that? Have a really good, so when you're talking about Twitter, it doesn't matter. Twitter should be you should maximize it, your tool for reaching the world. So that, there's no need to have a second Twitter account. Facebook is where people feel the need for privacy, and some people start a business page, which is like a fan page, and then they start a personal profile. And that's okay. You're allowed to have a profile and a fan page, but you're not allowed to have two profiles. As soon as I see someone with two profiles, I wonder what's going on. They're not savvy if they're doing that, because you can adjust every post to have better confidentiality, better privacy, better security on what you're sharing. So that's where you should put your emphasis. One account, and then amp up the settings rather than trying to have two accounts.
So when you have one account, you want to personalize it a little bit so it's not just dry content. When you, I mean, what are some guidelines, so it's not too personal?
Yeah, to maybe even what content you put. So and I'm sorry that the connection is kind of going in and out, but I hope your audience can see us. I would say that there are a couple of things to think about. In what you're posting, you should be your online personality should reflect your real life personality. So if you're on TV, you're a producer, you're on air, you should be sharing content just like you do in your news stories. You are helpful, you're informative, you're getting people information that they can use right away. That's your brand. And then online, that even becomes more of your brand. One thought that Erica Anderson had, who is at Erica America on Twitter, she was early Twitter person. She said, if you're good in real life, you can be great on Twitter. And I say, if you're great in real life, then you can be awesome on Twitter. But if you're bad in real life, you'll be awful on Twitter or social in general. So what I'm trying to say is post things that are relevant, that are useful, that are helpful, that are timely. These are all attributes that get people excited and pumped to follow you, as opposed to you constantly talking about shoes. Now, if you're the shoe correspondent for your station, then that's great. Or you live you're in the town that covers Nike, right? Then you'll be covering a lot of shoes. That's okay. But unless you're a fashion correspondent, you shouldn't be just posting about shoes. You should be posting about other things. I spend 3 to 6 minutes on every post I write. Now that sounds crazy because we're all so busy, but I do that because one single tweet can get you fired. One single tweet can get you divorced. And every tweet ends up in the Library of Congress. So I think I craft this note when I'm tweeting it to see how many people, if anyone sees it, what will happen. And David Carr, the late great David Carr, who was a columnist for the New York Times, he said that he looks at every tweet he writes through the eyes of his boss. And he's like writing it to see how would his boss feel if she or he read this. So that's something for all of us to think about as well.
Absolutely. Now, what shouldn't you post online?
Well, I mean, I think you can take the inverse of everything I've talked about, but really thinking about, so one way I think about my posts is I say, whatever I'm posting is going to be seen not just by my audience today, but my great-great-granddaughter, who might wonder what life was like in the year 2016. And she won't even have to go to the Library of Congress. All tweets are archived there. She'll just hit a button on her head, and life, Grandpappy's life will show up. And she'll look at it, and then she'll be judging me. This girl I haven't met is going to be judging me. And so I think about that whatever you're posting is going to be seen maybe only by a handful of people, but whoever they are, it could matter to you. Another way to think about it, and I'm getting macabre on you, is to say, every post I write it as if it's my last tweet. If I get hit by a bus, they're going to pull that tweet out and say, this was Sri's last tweet. What is that tweet going to be? Is it going to be me mad at something that somebody said casually? Is it me going to be talking about my shoes or what I ate for lunch? Or when I do talk about lunch, I try to put some context, make it interesting, talk about a really interesting lunch, or start a conversation. And you'll see this morning I was in Philadelphia speaking at a conference, and my first tweet out of the conference was, there was a fantastic breakfast spread, and I said, people in Philly can really know how to eat breakfast. This is fantastic. And it was a compliment to the organizers. I said, these are great, thank you for this conference. Something like that is what you have to see. Everything you post, think about what's the worst thing that could happen with this, and then adjust accordingly.
Okay, that's good. Are there guidelines to posting personal moments, pictures of you?
Yeah, you know, when people hear me say 3 to 6 minutes, be really careful, they're like, Sri, you're Debbie Downer. You know, I want the freedom to say things. I want to show personality. And I think it'd be fair to say, if you look at my tweets or of others who believe in the same philosophy, we show personality. Now, my personality is not that interesting, but you can show off your interests. That's what goes back to the idea. If you're interesting in real life, you'll be great on social media. So start by being interesting yourself. If you have hobbies, you want to share that. If you have specific interests, or you know things that others may not know, you can share it. And there are really cool, simple things you can do. There's some people post what's called TIL, Today I Learned. So you do #TIL and you say, today I learned whatever it is, something new you learned. And people like to see that our on-air people are not like robots, right? But they really are, you know, have a personality, are interesting people. I used to do on-air television for about 10 years or so, and the best part about television was getting that response from the local TV station and people responding to you and you connecting with them. And we used to do early morning TV, which is, you know, you're competing with people getting ready for work and going to school. But if you said the right thing at the right time, people would pause and listen because they really care. They are interested in the kind of work you're doing. So that's something that I would think about as well.
Okay. Oh, what about posting opinions? I see people post, you know, their thoughts on their politics, or, you know, pictures of them drinking in a bar. I mean, is that okay?
Let me give you a couple of guidelines on that. My rule has always been, you don't post about politics because it's going to come back to bite you. This election season, as with everything, I'm posting a lot about Donald Trump. Like, you know, if he becomes president, he's not going to go after me necessarily. You know, he's going to go after lots of other people first. But he may end up going up, you know, I might end up on his enemies list. But everything I post isn't me stating an opinion about him, but sharing articles or cartoons about him. But as I said, he's kind of managed to get under everybody's skin. So that's an extreme case. But regular politics, business, you have to be very careful. If you're a fan of Sweetums, let's say, you know, talk about a fake brand from Parks and Recreation, and you are the journalist who is in that town, you don't want to keep saying you love Sweetums because they're the largest employer in the town or whatever, right? So you have to be very, very careful about that. You'll be judged by people about what you post. So be very careful and be thoughtful. One of the things that that Jennifer Preston taught me. Jennifer is at Jennifer Preston on Twitter. She is in charge of journalism funding at the Knight Foundation, and she was the first social media editor of the New York Times. And she said 5 great words: show excellent judgment on Twitter. Show excellent judgment on Twitter. There's nothing that can stop you if you show excellent judgment. So do that when you're doing your work. I know that people are, you know, we only have, another 10 minutes or so, so I don't know if we can get questions from the outside, or how does this work exactly?
Yeah,
how does this work?
We're just waiting for questions. I don't think any are coming in right now. But I mean...
Yeah, but I would just say, the other thing I would say is that, you know, on my Twitter feed, like, I use my Twitter feed like a continuation of my classes, or like what we're doing now. Every post is meant to be informative, helpful, fun, useful in some way, and occasionally funny. That's fine. So that's what I would urge your watchers, viewers to join me on @Sri and check out how I post. And then I wanted to invite everybody to my closed Facebook group called Sri's Advanced Social Media, Sri''S Advanced. And if you find that on Facebook, you can join. And there we post amazingly useful resources every day. And it's a great community, not because of me, but because of the people who are there. For folks who work in television, people who work in news, in newspapers, digital, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those people are on the community, and so they're global. You post a question, someone will answer you really fast.
All right, and I'll post those links.
Great, thank you.
There's someone talking? Oh, well, let's talk about timing. I mean, can you overpost? What's a good time to post in the day?
Sure, I would say that you can overpost because there's a lot of content out there, and if you add to the noise, people won't see what you're doing. So I would really think about what you're posting. Twitter, if you're not covering breaking news, 3 to 5 to 6, 7, 8 times a day, whatever makes you comfortable. But think of a 24-hour day. Don't think of just the work day. So maybe one of the things you do is you wake up in the morning and you live in a particular neighborhood or part of town, and you say, it's 6 a.m. This is what's going on here in my neighborhood, or whatever. Without giving away where you live, if you can do that. Or here are 3 headlines I'm reading from our own station, or whatever. However you want to think about that, I think that's one thing you can think about. And this may not apply to people in your kind of work, but I'm also thinking much more globally about my audience, and because I have a lot of folks in India and South Asia and East Asia that follow me. I schedule things, go live at midnight, which is obviously prime time in Asia. So finding that kind of mix of things. Instagram, you don't want to post more than 1 or 2 a day because it just clogs up the feed, and they're changing the algorithms all the time. So the best part you can do is to say, I want to be really serious about my social media. That's my message. Like, take it as seriously as you do anything else. In my case, the single tweet I write is going to be read by more people than any other thing I do this week, and so I take that very seriously. And that doesn't mean that you can't have fun. That doesn't mean you can't have a personality. But the more careful you are, the more successful you're going to be.
How do you get people to go onto your pages? How do you get those likes, those followers? Make sure that you're the reliable source for news.
So part of it is, I'll ask you, Catherine. So what kind of work do you do, and how do you think about promoting what you do?
I'm a reporter for an ABC affiliate in Reno, so I just tweet content throughout the day.
So you tweet, but are you connecting those tweets to the work you're doing? Are you saying, my piece is at 11. I don't know which show you're on, but I'm on the 11 p.m. news. I'm going to have this. But here are the 3 people I'm talked to, and here is a clip from one of them. So you don't want to step on your 11 o'clock news, but you want to be a bridge to the 11 o'clock news. And then when you're on set, what are things happening around you? What are you seeing? Or when you're on the field, what are things you're seeing? Is there a 15-second clip you can post on Instagram? That's now you can do up to a minute on Instagram. Are there things you can share that you can post that people want to follow you? They want to see, are you going to be sending them consistently good content? Or are you going to be wasting their time? Another way I think about this is we all have friends who call us, right? Occasionally, people still call, I think. But if somebody calls you and you see, how it says on your phone, it'll say ignore or answer, right, when someone calls you. And what we do is we take a look, and the person who's always like ranting and raving and never starts asking, hey, Catherine, you got a second? And just piles on right away and, is just like an angry uncle. Even when you're free, you'll hit ignore because you just don't have the mind space right now. And then when he asks you next time he meets, say, hey, how come you didn't take my call? You will lie and say you were in a meeting. On the other hand, we have a friend who every time she calls, she first asks, how are you doing, Kath? I saw your story. That was terrific. I know you were working on it. How's it going? And then she helps you. What do? Even when you're in a meeting, her call comes up, you will say, hold on, guys. You will hit answer, and you say, hold on, I'm coming out. And then you'll walk out and go and answer the call. Like, you want your content to be like that. You want to be the second person, not the first person.
Okay. All right. Looks like we only have a few minutes left. Any last-minute tips and final thoughts for people who are just starting out with social media?
Sure. I think there aren't that many people sort of just starting out because they've all been doing it, but they haven't been thinking about it as a business and as a tool that will be so important. So what I tell people is on your phone, you want to be creating what I call thumb stoppers. Thumb stoppers, because people are going on their thumbs like this all day. Why will they stop on your feed over anybody else? And the reason they'll stop is because you have thumb stoppers. Thumb stoppers are great content, photos, videos, GIFs, etc., that make it relevant, and then you'll want to stop. So that's what you want to do. So when you're posting, you want to look at your feed and see, is there something on it that people would stop on? See, like that, there's an image there, no image, image. The ones that have an image are the ones you're likely to pause on. You see, it's a thumb stopper. Look, all of these kind of blend in, but boom. You see the difference? So what is your content? Is your content a thumb stopper is what I'd ask. I also use the hashtag #LearnSocialMedia. Learn social media. You can go online and use that, and you'll see I've posted 145 tips on social media. Each one is a mini lesson that can help you in what you're doing. #LearnSocialMedia. And then I also host Social Media Weekend in New York, June 10 and 11. It's outside of Sweep, so hopefully some people can make it. It's at CUNY Journalism School, and it's a wonderful 2 days of insane learning. And it's great not because of me, but because of the people who come together. So I hope to see some of you there. Otherwise, please hit me up on Twitter or on Facebook. I'm using Facebook Live a lot to share content. You don't want to step on the toes of your own television work, but see where there may be a path for you to do that. People need to know you are a reliable source, you're a relevant source, you're an interesting source. So on Facebook, I'm at SriNet on Facebook, at SriNet on Instagram, and at Sri on Twitter. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll also give you my email, sri@sri.net, SREE at sree.net. Sri.com is a chain of motels in Florida.
All right, and I'll post your contact information on our Facebook page. Thank you so much, Sri, for taking time out of your life and talking to us today. I'm just going to make a quick plug-in for the AAJA convention. Hope to see you there, Sri.
Yeah, tell them all about it.
Yeah, it's this August 10th through 13th. It's in Vegas this year, so that's exciting. One of the things we're looking forward to is the NBC University. It's a one-day all-intensive workshop that deals with both on and off broadcast journalists, all levels throughout their career. They're going to be talking to news leaders, producers, top management from all NBC platforms. So you can apply at aaja.org. I'll attach that link on our Facebook page as well. You have until July 22nd. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time on our Google Hangout. Have a good one.